For some people, silence is uncomfortable. And silence has been called things like deafening. Silence. Here we are, we come in on a Sunday morning. Sunday morning isn't necessarily the place to find silence. We keep things moving along pretty well. And we come to this point right here that, this is the third time I've talked about this week, and that moment of standing up here and looking out at you, and I look at faces and some smile and look at me funny, like you having a stroke, or, it's uncomfortable. It's uncomfortable. It's even uncomfortable for me, especially during this point in our worship when fair expectation is that the preacher's going to get up and fill the silence with words, right? Hopefully words that get strung together into sentences and paragraphs that hopefully are coherent, right? Fill the silence with some words that are encouraging or pithy or inspiring or challenging or funny or whatever. So sort of they're odd. We come to worship and there's this silence. And it makes us uncomfortable. Part of it's our expectation. But it makes me think about how this is what we do anyway in our everyday lives. For the most part, most of us in this room, we fill up our silences with many words. Many words. Unless you sleep with the radio or the television on, and some of you do. But for the most part, all of us during our waking hours, we have the spoken word. We have the sung word. We have words in the background, television, radio, internet. We're talking on the phone, or whatever, words. Lots of words. It's fair to say that we are people that are bombarded constantly with words and even with noise. Fair enough? So suddenly we come to, partly because of that gospel lesson, we come to this idea that the first Easter was born in silence. And this idea about being silent. And we have to acknowledge that that's kind of tough for us. It's kind of hard for us because, again, we're used to having our silences filled with words. In fact, sometimes we make sure we fill up our silences with words because we don't want to hear certain things. Fair enough? Many times, and look, I'm not saying it's bad. I'm not saying that we're rotten, horrible, sinful people. I'm saying we're human. We're God's broken children. And boy, I'd rather be distracted than to have to think about some of the stuff I need to think about, yeah? So I'll watch a movie. I'll go online. I'll read lots of words. That's one of my escapes. That's my addiction, if you will. My addiction is reading. My addiction is reading. Anybody else have that addiction? My goodness, what a horrible thing for somebody that's addicted to reading that they came out with books that you can download to your iPad. It's like having a bookstore in my house, Wow, I can buy only $12? Yeah. Downloads in 3 minutes? I like to read. Point. Many times we want to fill our silence up with lots of words, lots of noise. But look, here's the deal, folks. I don't know about you, but I know about me, and I know where I am right now, is that in thinking about all of this, I realized that I just got to a point this last week that I was just sick and tired of so many words. You ever get that way? Like, man, enough. That doesn't mean I'm bad or wrong or you're bad or wrong. It just is. It is what it is. Sometimes we get to that point that we just feel like we're so bombarded with so many words, like it's just one long stream of words explaining, justifying, selling, defending, whether it's, again, television or newspapers or the internet, whatever your means, whatever your screen. It's like it occurred to me this last week, like I just seem like it's one long stream of words. We know maybe you don't know this, but next November there's going to be a presidential election. Had you picked up on that? Anybody? Yeah, a little bit. There's something out there. Why? Because there's lots of words, right? There's lots of words, whether it's campaign signs or slogans or bumper stickers, or you turn on the television or you open the newspaper, you get your news online like I do. It's constant. It's lots of words. Again, that's not bad and horrible and rotten in itself, but hey, there's a lot of words out there. We look at, I told you, for example, that getting ready to go down to observe General Conference of the United Methodist Church. That, again, is one of the reasons I did not run to be a delegate, did not even throw my name in the hat last year to be elected, because I knew how many words I would have to be studying and looking at and reading at. And those folks down in Tampa, they've been at it since last week as they talk and talk and talk and long streams of words. We know what happens in our church. This is what we do. We're God's people. We come together, not just on Sunday mornings, but we're working here because God's doing something new with Grandview. How many of you knew that? Did you know that? God's doing something here. That's what's supposed to happen. We have a public mission, according to Gil Rendell, this book that the men's Sunday school is reading called Back to Zero. Is that what? Back to Zero? Back to Zero. It says, hey, every church has a public mission, which is to make more disciples of Jesus Christ, but every church also gets distracted after a while and has a private mission. And the private mission many times is different than the public mission. Fair enough? Just like in our own lives. And so there's a lot of words that go around with that. We look at things like cell groups. Hey, come. There's lots of words, is my point. Right now we're studying and looking at our preschool. What's the best way to do it? What would be effective? What would be best? It doesn't mean it's bad. It doesn't mean it's wrong. But listen, lots of words, lots of conversations, round and round we go. And I just got to a point this last week, not just because of here, but everywhere, that I said, man, with all these words, I know that I personally am having a really hard time hearing God. Are you still with me? Because I figure if it's true for me, then it's probably true for at least another 5 to 25 to 50 of you. What say you? Yeah? See, with all of our words, and the words around us, surrounding us, look, brothers and sisters, it's hard to hear God. And so when we get asked the question, what is God doing in your life this week, this day? What is God doing in your life right now? I know it's hard to answer that if we can't hear God. It's hard to really, truly answer that question if the only voice we hear is our own. Fair enough? And if we don't have times and space for silence, it's really tough to hear God. Now, I have friends older than me, and they came through the 60s, and they said that with certain pharmaceuticals and turn up Black Sabbath, they heard God. I'm not talking about that. Okay? What are you laughing about, Terry? I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about really hearing God. And you can't do it with the noise. You just can't. And I don't know if that happens to you, but I know that it happens to me. And that maybe you are struggling to hear God speak to you right now in your life, whether you are a husband or a wife or a child, or whether you're a teenager. I'm talking to all of us. Maybe you're struggling with that question. What is God doing in my life right now? See, that question matters, folks. It matters greatly. What's God doing? What are the people? Who are the people that are in